So we're down at the track today. It's the first day of base season, off season threshold testing. We're going to do my run threshold, heart rate, pace test today at the track. 30-minute basically warm up, and then it's just a 30-minute as hard as you can go effort. And we'll calculate my run threshold and heart rate and pace off that, so we can figure out training for the rest of the season. And then we're going to do later this week, we'll do bike threshold, power, and swimming I just don't do because I don't care about swimming. Just all part of off season, base season, kind of getting ready for training. So here we go. Sucks.
All right, so we just finished up my run test. We got back home, got cleaned up a little bit, and gonna go over the data, figure out what my threshold is. But I think maybe we should backtrack a little bit and just run through the why am I doing this, the when am I doing this, and then kind of go through the protocols that I'm doing it. So threshold test, basically why you do this. This is something that you should be doing probably a few times a year. Very much important at the beginning of the season. It's how you're going to set all your training zones. So once you get your threshold pace, heart rate, and power and heart rate on your bike, you can use that to then build your training zones. Zones, obviously, however, what model you use. There's plenty of episodes, plenty of podcasts, plenty of people that will explain training zones, explain that concept very much in detail. I just want to kind of do that quick overview of that's why I'm doing this. So I want to make sure that my training is, I'm not wasting my time just spinning my wheels, training in the wrong zones, the wrong systems. As far as when I do this early in the season because I'm going to lose a lot of fitness in the off season. So I want to reset my training zones off season, base season, so I can know what to train or how to train moving into the season. Then I'm probably going to repeat this maybe every probably every 3 to 4 months. I'm going to repeat this test or these tests. As you gain fitness, your training zones are going to adjust as well. You want to make sure that as you're getting more fit, you're still training those zones effectively and getting the most out of your training. So that's kind of when. As far as how I'm doing this, we've already gone through the run test, and we're going to go over the bike test. The run test, as far as the numbers, so I did a 30-minute all-out effort. My average pace over that 30 minutes is going to be my actual threshold pace. So that pace for me came out to 6:59. So basically 7 minutes is my threshold pace. And then my threshold heart rate, you're going to take your heart rate over the last 20 minutes of that test. So my average heart rate over the last 20 minutes of that test was 182, maybe 183. So now that is my threshold heart rate. So I can use those two numbers to now build my training zones going forward for the rest of the season. In my opinion, you want to use your pace and your heart rate, or your power and your heart rate. You really want to use both of them for kind of different workouts. Your zone 2 work, your low, slow work, that's what you should use your heart rate off of. All your other stuff, your tempo, your threshold, your VO2, that's where you should use your pace and your power, in my opinion. That's the kind of worked with a lot of coaches. That's kind of the way I've been coached. Typically what happens on the long rides, even if you're riding a steady power, you end up with a cardiac drift where you're slowly, as you fatigue, your heart rate will start to creep up. So on your long rides, you want to kind of use your heart rate to train with. On all those other rides, you want to use your power or your pace. So then when you're doing your tempo, your threshold, your VO2, that's where you can bring in the pace numbers or the power numbers. So that's kind of why you want both of these numbers. So we've gone over the numbers for the run. I'm going to give my legs a couple days to cool off, and then we're going to go do the bike test, and then we'll go over that stuff and yeah, move on from there.
All right. So I finished up my run threshold, pace and heart rate test a few days ago. Gave my legs a few days to recover. Did some easy spinning and stuff like that. Now we're gonna get started with my bike test, the FTP test. So today I'm actually gonna do the 2 8-minute tests. So it's basically do some warm up. You do an 8-minute effort as hard as you can for 8 minutes, 10-minute rest, and then another 8-minute effort. You can do the 30-minute test. You can do a ramp test. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm actually never done the 8-minute test. I'm curious to do it. I've done enough of these FTP tests, honestly, that the ramp test is close enough for me. I've done that one a lot. The 30-minute test, if you've ever done it, you know it just sucks. So I'm curious to know about the 8-minute test. If the numbers seem super off from where I think I'm at, I might have to redo it. But here we go.
All right, so warm-up's over. I mean, I still feel awesome. It's not a great sign, but warm-up's done. We're about to kick into this first 8-minute effort and see what the legs got. We'll go. All right, so we got the first 8 minutes out of the way. Felt decent, and a 10-minute cool off, and do it again. All right, so finished my last 8 minutes. I actually feel like it was a little better than the first one, but gonna cool down, and I hear my baby crying, so probably gonna have to cool off and go attend to that, and then we'll take a look at all the numbers later and go over that stuff.
All right, so I finished up my 8-minute tests and cleaned up. Had to deal with some deal with the family, deal with the kids. So now we're gonna go over the data and kind of see what that looks like, what the test looked like, how I think it went, and all that stuff. So if we look at my 2 8-minute efforts, my first 8-minute effort, the average power that I did over that was 245, and then my second 8-minute effort was 249. I kind of goofed up on the way. I had to build the training file because Zwift or no one has that 8-minute test. And when it switches into free ride, I was thinking that it was going to set to a set gradient, but it didn't. It just went to the terrain. So the first effort, I happened to be on just a rolling section of Zwift. So I was shifting and I was kind of fighting to kind of get a steady power. I think it kind of goofed it up, but I mean, the numbers are even enough and I'm happy with it. So take those two numbers, you average them together, and then you divide them by, or multiply them by 0.9. End up with 222. So that's about where I'm at. That feels about right. I did a ramp test 2 weeks ago, and I think on the ramp test, I was 225. So those two numbers are plenty close enough. That's where I feel like I'm at. One thing I haven't mentioned is the downside to the ramp test and the 8-minute test, as opposed to doing just the standard 30-minute FTP test, is you're not really going to get any heart rate data off this. You can't really collect your heart rate and figure out your threshold heart rate. For me personally, that's not a big deal, just because I know my heart rate zones from other tests, and they just don't really change personally. Like my power zones are going to change a whole lot more than my heart rate zones, especially on the bike. They kind of are what they are for me. You can tell me I'm wrong, but pretty much stays the same. So I'm not too worried about that. But if you want to try to figure out your threshold heart rate on the bike, you're probably going to need to do the 30-minute test. If you just want to go off some power numbers, you can do any of these tests, in my opinion. They're all they're all accurate. They're all going to get you really close. I think there's always going to be upsides and downsides to all the tests. So that's where we're at. A whopping 222 FTP, and now I'm going to set my training zones and start training for the season. So hopefully this little video has been useful for you guys. You've enjoyed it. FTP tests are never fun. It's always going to be a lot of work and a lot of struggle, but they're kind of necessary evil that you got to do to set yourself up for the season. So if you like these videos, I really appreciate it. If you the cliche, subscribe to my channel, follow along. I'm going to post some more of these stuff as the year goes on, as I get into race season, what that's going to look like with the kid, all that stuff. So thanks for watching this far, and appreciate it.